All right, Nick. Head to the top of the ninth. Chance to win. Some would say it would be nice to win the first game of a series. Some would say it's possible to win the series after you win the first game of the series. This would be 2 in a row of winning the first game of the series. And it would also be 2 in a row if they were to find a way to win a series. All right. See if Emilio Pagan can right the ship. Alex is asking for likes, and I also would appreciate likes as well. This game kind of feels like stealing, too, if I'm being honest. Maybe not. I don't know. I kind of gone back and forth on the philosophy of feeling like the pitcher gave you opportunities and runs, or did you earn them? I don't know. I think you can draw a walk for sure. I mean, as far as walking the load and the bases, we'll obviously discuss later in the show. We have probably a good 30, 45-minute show. I'm guessing we can talk about these things. But first things first, Emilio Pagan. Chat, how we feeling? Usually I don't look at the chat at all during times like this because I feel like someone's always ahead. And then, you know, essentially, Mouse Cop, although a loyal follower of Chatterbox, likes to be the guy that will poke the bear from time to time. That's a little bit of his MO. And the thing about Mouse Cop is I'm pretty sure he is listening to it on the radio and or he's at the game itself. I've not figured out which one yet, but he will let you know what happens in that chat. And I personally would like to know that this is not a strikeout before I see it with my own eyes. And that is why I don't watch the chat. But there is one away.
Or are we synced?
I'm hoping we are. I'm watching Apple TV on my phone, so
we should be close. We should be close.
I don't know how I would be that far behind or far ahead.
This is probably the closest we'll be all year.
JB said Lux for Gold Glove. Well, here's the funny thing about that play: he didn't use his glove at all. He didn't use his glove at all. This is one of those shows where I'm going to fight the yawns the whole entire show. Still trying to catch up from the Nuxall Classic. It's almost like you feel like you've been on a bender, which I've not been on a bender in a long time. But
thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, but just saying, it feels like I've been on a bender and I'm reeling. I'm trying to catch back up here, and it's just not quite catching up fast enough. I feel like I want to fix that camera, but let's try to do that. Let's do that in real time. Not watching the chat. Don't want to get it ruined. And we have a 2-2 count. There we go. That's another one.
Do you think? No, you're good. Okay. Did you think Brady Singer was happy that he wasn't traded for Santiago Espinal?
Yeah. Why are you doing this? Come on, Nick.
I gotta do a little poke at the bear myself.
Yeah, I mean, you know, every time we get a peace deal done, we've done signed the treaty. You come along and you spark a little bit of fire. You're like the game's over. Oh, he dropped it. This one belongs to the Reds on him.
Hey. Never heard of this guy, but bold.
Wow, that seems like a hot way to come in. Seems like a hot way to come in, but he did say, in the words of Marty, I'll give him that. But I don't know if I'd be using that line. But hey, that you do you, as they say. Reds win. The Reds win, since we're just stealing, what would we call these? Legacy phrases on a night like tonight. All right, we'll be right back.
And a bench to bench. Change hit in the air to deep right field. Back goes Clemente. It's the save. He's done. Get out of here, baseball. It's gone. Oh, my God. Can you believe it? Johnny Bench has tied it up. The Cincinnati Reds win the World Series in 4 straight. It was a sweep. In the dirt. It's a wild pitch. Here comes Falter. The Reds win the pennant. Larkins won the game. That ball is fair. Cincinnati's ahead. 2 games to none. Welcome, Joe Randa to Cincinnati. Adam Dunn has done it again. Benzinger backing and calling. And the 1990 World Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds.
Marty, yes. This is Adam from Milwaukee. Hey, Adam, how you doing? I'm good. How are you? Good. Do you think Scott Hatteberg's a good player?
Dunn up there with the bases loaded, the outfield deep and around toward right, and the 1-0 on the way to the plate. Swung on, long drive, right field, and this one belongs to the Reds.
And a high drive. Hit back into deep right field. Junior has just knocked the door down to the 500 club. Benson's first home run is a walk-off winner. That ball had a family.
And De La Cruz is, oh my goodness, look at this kid run. My, oh my, that is a triple.
Matt McLain's first big league bomb. Spencer Steer's first big league hit is a home run to straightaway center field. Joey Votto's done it again. The pitch. Votto swings high in the air. Right field. Yes! He pointed to the dugout to say, I told you. That is Joey Votto's 315th career go-ahead ribby. Only Johnny Bench had more as a Red.
And I can't tell you how much it means to play in front of everyone here in Cincinnati as a Red. What a gift. What a tremendous gift. So thank you. Thank you.
I think I can speak for all of Reds country. Joey Votto, thank you.
High drive, left center field, racing back to the Laurent Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? Did he? He did! He did! Reds win! Reds win! Line into right field. Genius, the first run ever. With 4 home runs in a game. Can you believe it? In the air, down the right field line. Doesn't have a chance. The Reds have won on a 3-run home run on opening day by Ramon Hernandez. A strike away and out away is Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves. Throw to first, and Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed a no-hitter. Oh, gosh. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? Holy Moses, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win it. What a dream beginning to the career of Jay Bruce.
All right, Nick, it's a winning edition of Chatterbox Reds on a Friday night, and that makes everything feel just right. I'll tell you what, you know, I watched the show that you guys did, obviously on the heartbreaking loss against the Giants on getaway day, and it felt like the Reds had built up some momentum. They were playing better baseball. It felt like there was more opportunities for them to kind of break through offensively. Now, I will openly admit it did feel like there was only one way to go at one point, which was up. I mean, you can't get quite literally worse than the shutouts that they had been, spitballing out every other night. But it felt like we were starting to get to a point where maybe some of these guys will break through. And tonight, what could have been devastation early in this game turned into the biggest hit that I can remember Jeimer having in quite some time. I'm sure we'll get into all that and more. Nick, anything that you want to do before we jump into the box score recap that I'm sure you've been working very diligently on over the past 10 minutes?
No, feels weird to win a game just like 5-3. It's either been 14-3 or 1-0. There hasn't been a whole lot of these just kind of average baseball games. So I guess kind of refreshing it away just to win a normal looking baseball game. Only 4 hits the whole night, but they had Falter on the ropes early. They let him off the hook, and then Candelario put the team on his back a little bit. So, this was a nice win, and 3 of 4. I mean, a good week of baseball from the Reds. Should be 4-0, but certainly I'll take 3-1 right now.
Yeah, no doubt. I got some demons I'm battling with this game right now that I'm sure we'll get into here in just a bit. I don't want to ruin too much of kind of the meat and potatoes of what I have to say here on the opening segment. But before we kind of get into all that, we'll run through a quick box score recap, get into the deep drive of the day, and then obviously discuss the things at hand that made this game what it was, a win for the Reds.
All right, Reds taking on the Pirates. Game 1 of 3 at Great American Ballpark. Reds enter just 17-28 against the Pirates over the last 3 seasons. Brady Singer retired the Pirates in order, he faced the minimum in the first inning thanks to a double play. And then Pirates starting pitcher Brady Falter really struggled with his command early. Cold day at Great American Ballpark. Falter walked Friedel, Dunn, and Elly De La Cruz to start the game. Spencer Steer grounded into a double play, did put the Reds up 1-0, but then Jeimer Candelario hit his first home run of the year, a 2-run shot to put the Reds up 3-0. Reds scored 2 more runs in the bottom of the third. Elly De La Cruz reached on a fielder's choice, and he parlayed that into 2 runs when he stole third base, causing a throwing error by Pirates catcher Endy Rodriguez. That also brought Spencer Steer around as well. 5-0 Reds. Brady Singer would give up 3 runs in the bottom of the 5th. The Pirates would cut it to 5-3, but the Reds bullpen got the job done. Taylor Rogers got the job done in the 6th. Graham Ashcraft, 2 more great innings from him, scoreless, and then Emilio Pagan, a perfect 9th inning with 2 strikeouts. Reds win 5-3. Reds now 6-8 on the young season.
All right, the deep drive of the day, it has to be the one and only. The biggest drive of his Reds career, at least that I can remember, as I've said before. There hasn't really been too many far in between. Jeimer Candelario, big home run in the first inning, 102 off the bat, 384 feet. That would give the Reds a 3-0 lead, and it would jump their win probability up 15%, making it 80%. As we all know, those analytics will turn out to be 100% by the end of the night. DSC, though, they are a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. All right, Nick. This is the story of the night. I mean, we can sit here and act like it is or it isn't, and there's things I kind of want to get into maybe more or less still some of the struggles of this offense and then what we make of that, if we are excited for what we've seen tonight because there were good things, or do we still feel, hesitant, I think is the word maybe to use here. But Candelario, there are times where good baseball teams don't play well and they win, but they do something special during the game, like pick a teammate up or make a play in the field or take extra bags on the base pass that give them a little small advantage throughout the game as a whole, and they find a way to win by 1 or 2 runs. And you kind of ask yourself, like, wow, similar in basketball when a guy has 35 points and you say, he's got 35 points, it's a quiet 35. Tonight felt like a possibly quiet 5 runs, and a lot of that was because in the first inning, Candelario came through after what seemed like there was a chance of for lack of a better term, squandering a huge opportunity. It was just, am I a full-blown believer in Candelario? I'm not, but I will openly admit, biggest play of the game, directly on that man's shoulders.
It's a bad contract for the Reds, but it is what it is at this point. Candelario can still be an impactful player for this team, a team that doesn't have a lot of power. Candelario hit a lot of home runs last year over a short amount of time. He ended the year, I think with 23, and he only played in 112 games. Or he ended up with 20 in 112 games. And remember the month of April last year was very reminiscent of the month of April this year. He was pretty abysmal. So I certainly understand why everyone was frustrated with Jeimer Candelario. I was frustrated with Jeimer Candelario. I understand why everyone was giving up on Jeimer Candelario. And while today does nothing to right the wrongs or give you confidence, I also don't think the previous 13 games where he struggled should be a reason to think that he can't perform at all this year either. It's 14 games into the season. This was a nice sign. I think that overall you have to kind of hope and look at the back of the guy's baseball card that overall has been a pretty consistent hitter for the last 4 or 5 years in the big league. So it's going to be a bad contract because he can't play third base at a decent level, but he can still help this team a lot for a team that needs some power out of first base, DH, and I guess third base when he plays there.
It'll be interesting to see what happens if McLain stays healthy. I got to be honest, because ultimately, it feels as if there's a crunch in the infield, and you know where I stand on this whole thing, and it's maybe the most passionate thing that I have with this team right now is that we've got to value defense, and we also have to value the fact that Santiago Espinal is probably a little bit of a better player than we'd like to give him credit for, because he got off to such a poor start with this team. And people, as they say, it's tough to kind of get over either a good and or bad first impression. And it seems like Espinal kind of got off to a bad first impression, and he's really done nothing but play well ever since the back half of last year. Jeimer, he got hurt last year, coupled with the fact that he got off to an incredibly slow start. So you factor in the fact that we have a bad first impression, also gets hurt, comes into this season, feels like same old with this guy, nothing's changed. So I'm with you. It is very early. How many times throughout Joey Votto's career, if you just judged him based off the first month and a half of his season, what would you think at the end of it? Now, the only problem is that was Joey Votto, and this is Jeimer Candelario, so there's probably going to be a difference there. But, I'm not out on him in regards to him being able to be helpful at some extent. I just don't think he can play the defense that I want him to be able to play for him to be able to make an impact in the way in which I think he needs to make to help this team get to a postseason, which I know is crazy to say postseason sometimes on this show, but I'm going to continue to say that because that's the goal. DH is possible, Nick. Stick him at first base every so often, possible, no doubt. But it'll be interesting to see how that all kind of plays out. Offense as a whole, you want to add on to that?
Well, I was just going to add on about Espinal. The Reds have to have guys hit their way to put Espinal onto the bench. Like, if there's not guys hitting, just put Espinal in the field because he's going to provide you good defense. In a perfect world, you have guys that are all just hitting so well that you say, all right, well, we'll put Espinal on the bench. Maybe we'll bring him in later to the game. But at this point, there's not enough guys hitting to put Espinal on the bench. So we'll see if that happens at some point. But I'm with you right now. If these guys have to hit at not just an average level, they need to be hitting at an above average level to put Santiago Espinal on the bench and take away the defense that you're getting and the defense that coincides with the great starting pitching that is your bread and butter with this team.
Yeah, it's like if this is the way that we think that we can win, let's go all in on that way. That's kind of where I'm at. If we're going to win with pitching, then let's play good defense. Let's find a way to get some timely hits, and let's see where that gets us until we find some guys that can hit consistently in this lineup. All right, that's probably a good segue into the offense as a whole. Listen, tonight I'm not over the moon with the offense. I'm glad that they scored 5 runs. That's obviously a considerable amount in a baseball game in the major leagues. The demon I'm battling is really more or less like Was this an indication of just what the Reds were given tonight by the Pittsburgh Pirates playing bad baseball? I mean, you can't walk that many guys, first of all, without it coming to bite you at some point. Falter basically, he created opportunities for the Reds, like it or not. I would like to think, Nick, that you can draw walks, but there are also times where, you can't find the zone and you walk guys. Now, having said that, Elly created a run tonight. But I also step back and I say, Nick, although I think that Elly deserves credit for creating that run, I also think it should be said that there's no reason and no business that a catcher should be blocking a baseball and then after blocking said baseball, deciding to try to throw out Elly De La Cruz is a moronic behavior. It's a moronic behavior. And you throw a ball down the left field line and the Reds score 2 runs from that. So, I have nothing in regards to negativity towards the offense. I just more or less opinion hasn't changed. I guess if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. I don't know if it does.
Yeah, I mean, overall, not a great night by the offense. Not something you're going to, have a whole bunch more confidence. But there were some good signs. Obviously, number one is Candelario hitting a home run. I mean, that's a great sign. The other thing is 6 walks. And Bailey Falter certainly was a major reason for those 6 walks. I was trying to find it on the fly. I don't know if it's MLB's updated or not, but the Reds are tied for second to last in Major League Baseball in walks, and they had 6 tonight. And there were 6 ahead of the leader. So I don't know if they might have been dead last coming into today is what I'm getting at. So, yes, Falter, like that one to Elly De La Cruz in the first inning was just straight up. I mean, if you don't walk on that, you're not a big leaguer. But I thought Friedel and Dunn both had really good competitive plate appearances the first 2 to kind of draw the walks and kind of set up Elly De La Cruz. So that's a good sign for a team that's been in the absolute bottom of baseball in walks. This team has also been one of the worst teams against left-handed pitching this year. If you look at the splits coming in, it was atrocious. The Reds were hitting like 130 with a 230 on base percentage against lefties. Now, for whatever reason, they've had Brady Falter's number, so you kind of take a little bit with a grain of salt. We'll see how they look against a much better lefty in Andrew Heaney tomorrow. But those are the good signs. You had a good game against the lefty. You drew some walks, and the guy that you really need to be a big power bat, whether you like him or not, had a home run today. So good signs, but I'm with you. I'm certainly not all the way back either.
But they found a way to win, and that's all that really matters. I mean, listen, it doesn't matter at the end of the day whether or not it was pretty or not pretty. I would much rather the Reds win and it be disgusting and think that the other team gave it to us than find a way to where the Reds hit 25 balls hard and somehow they were all unlucky and they went right to guys and you end up losing a 4-3 baseball game and you thought to yourself that there's no reason in the world they should have lost, but we should be happy because they played well. I'll take the ugly win any day, as they say. Graham Ashcraft, you have next on the rundown. I don't think it's a bad other place to go here. There's certain guys that their mold almost seems like it fits a certain position, and there were times even throughout last year and the year prior to that Graham Ashcraft seemed like a guy that would probably be best fit, perhaps possibly served in the bullpen. It was just at the time, the last few years, you kind of want to give guys a little bit of a rope to see whether or not they can stick as a starter when you have a 98, 99 mile an hour cutter, right? Like when you have a pitch that's that good, you don't want to shortchange a guy and just automatically be like, well, he's kind of had a rough go of it here. Let's stick him out in the bullpen, which is probably why there's pretty passionate people on the side of the Nick Lodolo deal where throw him in the bullpen because he gets hurt all the time or this, that, and the other. It's always like, well, if he's capable of staying healthy, he has maybe a better opportunity to help you out of being a starting pitcher. But Graham Ashcraft clearly has embraced this role. You've talked about it, Nick. And I'm not going to go over the moon on this take because I do think that there's a lot of season left. You don't know where things go. And I'm going to always side on the air that the fact that the quite frankly, relievers, in my opinion, are the most fickle bunch of any bunch in the world, maybe across any industry. They look great one month, and then they look like maybe they have never pitched in the big leagues the next month. But it is nice to see Graham Ashcraft feel like he belongs where he's at and he's relished in that role. And more importantly, he's had a ton of success.
Yeah, full transparency. I didn't get to watch a whole lot of Graham Ashcraft's pitches tonight. But shout out to our admin over on Chatterbox Sports, Andrew, tonight. Tweeted out his numbers so far this year. 7 1/3 scoreless, 5 hits, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. I think that sometimes it's made out to be a little easier than it is just to transition to a reliever. I think people think that's just going to be a easy, seamless transition, as opposed to the other way. I think people realize that's a lot harder. But I mean, the early returns are incredible from Graham Ashcraft, and just his ability to go multiple innings. That's such a weapon to have. Like, is there anyone else in the Reds bullpen that you would really feel comfortable going 2 innings outside of Brent Suter and a more of a, mop up play? Like, there's no one else in this bullpen that I think you would even really consider that right now. So to have that weapon that can, give you 2 innings, because there's going to be days where your bullpen is gassed and you desperately need 2 quality innings. That to me is the thing that really excites me the most, is just to kind of have that at Terry Francona's disposal. And again, it's a long season. We could feel very differently about Graham Ashcraft in 2 weeks. It goes quick, but the early returns are as good as you can get. And I'm fired up about Graham Ashcraft right now, because this is a very, very good development for a bullpen. That was my biggest question mark coming into the season.
From a mentality perspective, you want to go back in the old days. He's got a little Todd Coffey in him. There's like this. There's this concept that when I watch him throw, he's got. I know it's a kid show, but he has a something you attitude, and that's just. I don't think you can teach that. I just don't think you can. He's not timid. He doesn't seem to be scared of the situation at hand, and that typically bodes well when you come out of the pen. As far as guys that you trust for 2 innings, let me also say, I think Emilio Pagan's a guy that you can trust. I know he's not going to get that role opportunity right now, but I think he's probably one of those guys, if you were to say, hey, stack him up in the bullpen, who do you trust for a couple innings? Santillan's another guy I still trust for a couple of innings. And the rest of them depends on the day. But it is nice to say, I will say, it's nice. If Ashcraft wasn't this good right now, we would be searching. So when you talk about valuable players, and I don't want to say he's the most valuable player, because that would be, a little ludicrous. But when you talk about valuable guys that have stepped in and done things that we need them to do for this team to stay competitive, Ashcraft's probably going to be at the top of this list. I mean, he has to be at this very moment. Anything else to add before we kind of run through and get into some other thoughts? I don't know what you have on the back half, but I have some things to get to as well.
I guess we could talk about CES. That's a pretty common thing in the chat. We'll go ahead and get to that now. Obviously, he's looked terrible. I mean, there's not really much else to say it. It has been 14 games. My biggest point on CES, why I think the Reds should continue to run him out there, is there's 3 players on the Reds that have multiple home runs this year. One of them is injured right now, Matt McLain. The other is Elly De La Cruz, and the other is Christian Encarnacion and Strand. So I'm running him out there. I'm going to be patient with him. This guy has an incredible track record throughout his entire college and professional career, up until 29 atrocious games last year. I'm giving him more of a run. I'm riding or dying with Christian Encarnacion and Strand. Kind of the same thing as Candelario. I don't blame people for losing faith, and there's been some ugly swings. But even when he's going well, there's still ugly swings. That's kind of the thing. Like, it's not like, when he has a great month, it's just all fluid and every at-bat is great. There's still a lot of ugly swings in it. That's part of the package you get with CES. So I'm writing him out just because, again, I don't really see a whole lot of other options that excite me.
CES also has the ability to run into a couple pitches in a game and get, I don't say get lucky, but he has the potential of having a multi-home run game at the drop of a hat. Now, does that mean that you can just continue to give a guy leash? No. This is also kind of where I say, at some point, I hope this organization gets to a point where guys like CES aren't relied upon as heavily as we have to find and rely on a guy like this. And I don't think it's fair always to the prospect either, right? Like, if you had a really good organization, CES would find himself DHing every so often right now and maybe getting a run at first base every so often. But he's not going to be someone that you're relying on the middle of your order to hopefully produce a significant amount. Now, I know why he's here. He's a bopper. He's a guy that's supposed to be hitting the ball hard, hitting the ball over the fence, and producing runs. But he's not someone, and we've done this with a bunch of these kids, he's not someone that a good baseball team should be relying on as one of the main ingredients of being able to make sure that their team is going to be successful. That's why you do go out and you sign guys like Jeimer or Candelario. So, that might not be fair to Jeimer or Candelario, but that is the part of this game that's why he does get criticized. That's probably why fans maybe are a little more, I would think, apt to get on him before you get on CES. You get paid more. You have a track record. You got paid to come in to do a job that you're not doing. CES, certainly. Listen, we don't know who he is yet. I mean, we just don't. So if he's not a Major League Baseball player, then in 5 years we might look back at it and be like, yeah, it just never worked out. Like, he's just not a good enough player to play at the big league level. Will Benson's probably another one of those guys. Reese Hines is another one of those guys. There's a clear difference, Nick, between legitimate big league players like Elly De La Cruz, clearly looks to be like a superstar, and Matt McLain when they first come up. Like, CES just isn't there yet. That's all I'm going to say. Like, he's kind of in that next branch down. And until he showcases consistently that he's capable of producing, I'm not going to rely on that a whole lot. And I guess selfishly, I'm just not going to get overly upset at CES. And some might say that's not fair. He's on the team. You should treat him the same as you treat Jeimer or Candelario. I don't know. My brain won't let me do that. I don't do that. That's the same reason with Blake Dunn or Jacob Hurtubise, right? There's a reason I get on Jake Fraley more. It's because he's supposed to be a big leaguer at this point. Like, if you've been up here this long and you've gotten this many opportunities, then it's time to put up or shut up. It's hard for me to do that to Blake Dunn. He's not got enough opportunities for me to be able to say, like, start producing now. So this team right now has 3 or 4 of those guys that we get to ride this season out and hopefully figure out what they are. And that's why last year, Nick, the last thing I got on this, that's why last year hurt so bad. It did. Because we were supposed to figure these things out already. And we still don't have answers on a couple of these guys that we have got to get answers on. And CES, it's April 11th, you know? And you might say, Trace, you're a hypocrite. You're on one hand, you're saying Jeimer Candelario on April 11th isn't going to do it for you. But on April 11th, you're telling me that CES needs a little more run in the sun. Hopefully my logic came across and makes a little bit of sense to you as to why I feel that way. But that's kind of how I feel about the whole thing, Nick.
There might be a time where you have to send CES down to, it's really just going to be to get his confidence back up, because he's going to go down to AAA and mash, because he kills bad pitchers. There's not good enough pitching down at AAA. Like, he has mashed every spring training. He has mashed at AA, AAA. Like, he's not going to go to, he's not the kind of guy that's just going to go down there and fix things. Like, he's got to sink or swim at some point, like I think you were kind of saying there. So, yeah, I mean, it might get to that point, but he's not the kind of guy you send down and it just fixes him, I don't think. I think he's just going to have to figure it out at the big leagues. He's going to have to figure out a way to lay off pitches. He's had a couple at-bats recently. They've been kind of sporadic where it's like, oh, well, that was he laid off a couple good pitches there, but then the next one, it kind of goes back into what we've seen. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I still have all the belief in him. I think people know I'm a Will Benson guy. I believe in CES more than Benson.
All right. There you go. We shall find out. All right. Game time. It's getting closer in Cincinnati to being able to go down to the ballpark and enjoy some sunshine. I know that's not been the case lately. I know it's not going to be the case kind of maybe in the near, I would call it this week. Let's face it, right? But there are some brave souls that are still going out there. But you know what? Here soon, you're going to be looking for some tickets. And if you're looking for tickets, there's no better place to go than Game Time. You can download the Game Time app. It is the official ticketing partner of the Cincinnati. The Chatterbox Reds. I don't want to say Cincinnati Reds. That would be probably a lie. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But if you download the Game Time app, you can use the code CBox. That's CBOX. You can get $20 off your first purchase. And as I've said, and I'll say it 1,000 times, you can use it for almost any tickets. Almost any tickets. You can get on there, Nick. Disney on Ice. Looking up some tickets for Disney on Ice, believe it or not. Shout out to, no free ads, but I guess shout out to Disney on Ice. Don't know if my wife's going to take my daughter down there, but I do know this. She went on the Game Time app, punched in that code, and she's gotten $20 off her first purchase if she does plan to go. Nick.
Terms do apply. CBOX, $20 off your first purchase.
All right, and as always, 988, you can text and or call anytime, any day, and or night. You can visit mantherapy.org. It's okay to not be okay. Please always consider the 988 Suicide in Crisis Lifeline. All right. Back half of the rundown. Here we go. Base running and defense. There are times where you make bad base running mistakes and you get out because of it. There are times where you make what I would call baseball plays and it just doesn't work out. TJ Friedl tonight was trying to make a baseball play. I don't fault him on the physical part, right? I don't even fault him so much on the mental part of actually trying to make the play itself. I guess I'll even ask you, Nick, to start this off. I don't have a problem with what TJ Friedl was trying to do. He's going on first movement. He's guessing. He's hoping they don't throw over. He knows he's not fast enough to wait and to see if the left-hander is going to go to the plate to be able to then steal and be safe. So, like most times against left-handed pitching, you got to cheat the system. Almost everybody does that. They go on first movement, and he either throws over or he doesn't. And sometimes you're fast enough if you go early enough on first movement against a left-handed pitcher, you can beat the throw to second base from the first baseman himself. Tonight wasn't the case with TJ Friedl. I guess my question, though, Nick, that I have more or less, is I try to stay away from always being negative. I know I'm not good at that. But my question was why? What was the point of that?
Yeah, I don't know on that one. Overall, I thought it was good to see the Reds running tonight. I feel like we haven't seen enough of that. I feel like that has to be part of the equation for this team to be successful. So I kind of like some of the chaos. I mean, that's probably why, is trying to just create chaos. And it didn't work out in that spot, but I know a lot of people got frustrated last year. I got frustrated, probably not as much as the vast majority of people. I want the Reds to be aggressive. So I'll live with the mistakes. I don't want this team just sitting back. I mean, they have to be a little bit smarter for sure, but you're not going to be perfect. So yeah, I didn't have an issue with that. I thought it was great to see Elly running early and often. Again, I'm just kind of shocked that Elly is kind of where he's at. This is only his third stolen base. I mean, 3 stolen bases in 14 games. And a lot of that is two factors. It's one, he hadn't got on base at a high level, and the other one was they've played, I think, 5 games Patrick Bailey caught, the best catcher in the sport. And you're not going to see him again. So hopefully Elly De La Cruz kind of gets back to that, because I think that has to be part of the equation for this team.
Yeah, it does. And I think that's what their identity was when they had success a few years ago, right? It was a bunch of young kids being aggressive, and it worked out more times than not. And I guess my point when asking you what was the whole point of that wasn't the fact that I think trying to steal second base is a bad idea. It's just that you're ultimately trying to create an opportunity that is more or less going to exist regardless. If you stole second base, is my point, and you were safe, Elly De La Cruz has got a base open at that point, and there's just not a whole lot of action there, is my guess. So you're just given an opportunity, I guess, to get 2 runners on, because they're probably going to pitch around Elly more times than not. You get Elly on first base, and then there's more action that way. Maybe that's the point, but it seems like you're also then taking a pretty big risk on taking an RBI opportunity out of Elly's hands. And let's face it, if Elly catches that ball just a little bit better, it's a home run, and everybody, I'm telling you right now, everybody would be yelling about why was TJ Friedl trying to steal second base and Elly hits a home run. As again, I try to bring things up that happened in a game that if the result was just slightly different, everybody would be acting like it's a major deal. But since something didn't happen exactly the way that it could have, it's not a big deal at all. I just don't think that's a bad way of going. I think that's a bad way about going about judging whether or not something's smart or not smart. So, I don't have a major problem with it. I just think that, ultimately, hopefully this team can find a way to continue to be successful in the base pass and be smart and aggressive. And that hasn't always been the case, obviously, this year. All right, Brady Singer didn't eat a ton of innings tonight. Obviously, just kind of got in a spot where I'm trying to pull up his stuff now. I'm not saying 5 innings is bad, Nick. Certainly not bad, but he gave up what looks like 9 hard hit balls to comparatively speaking. Now Falter did walk half the world, so it's not too fair to be doing that. But he gave up, comparatively speaking, 5 hard hit balls to Falter. At the end of the day, gave him a chance to win, and what more can you say? He is a value add based off what we did in the offseason. And I know that, I really don't like getting into that because I think I don't care how well Jonathan India plays. To a certain extent, and maybe people will crush me for saying this, we got Jonathan India back by getting Gavin Lux. I don't think that there's going to be a huge discrepancy there. So I'm not going to keep looking at what Jonathan India does during the offseason or during the season and think to myself, well, this is a good trade or bad trade. Singer clearly is very valuable for us right now, especially with all these guys hurt.
Yeah, I think just Singer is value. You're going to feel it more in August than you feel it now. And I think the same thing with Nick Martinez. Yeah. I think both of those guys' value is just going to increase as the year goes on. This is like what we saw at a Singer in the first start. That's not what you're going to see out of him. You'll see that occasionally. He'll give you a really good start. But these last couple starts, this is just what you kind of should expect for the most part. I mean, there's going to be some great starts, and there'll be just a lot of these starts where he's just competitive. He keeps the team in the game, and this team needed that. They really did. So, yeah, I mean, overall, there's not really a lot to say about Brady Singer other than just, ho-hum. I mean, he was pretty good the first 4 innings, and it looked like it was pretty miserable out there to try to pitch. Yeah. I mean, Bailey Falter was certainly struggling with the cold. So I kind of give him a little bit of a extra credit on today's start and not going as deep just because I think the conditions, they sure look like it was pretty miserable. At least Elly De La Cruz looked pretty miserable out there.
Yeah. Yes, there's no doubt that it's that's an excellent point by you. I think that there are times where you don't really get to factor in the conditions of what guys go through. You can ask Brandon Williamson that based off an outing that he had in Baltimore one time. All-timer, by the way, all-timer. That's an all-timer for Brandon Williamson. Yeah, you kind of forget that, right? You kind of do forget, hey, the elements make a pretty big difference here. And, for lack of a better term, Singer did his job. So, kind of is what it is. We move on, and we'll see if he can continue to eat up innings, which I expect him to do. And it will be incredible if this guy is able to duplicate what he's been able to basically do in his career, which is throw a lot of innings and give this bullpen, and more importantly, perhaps even make sure that there's not a huge starting pitching depth concern throughout this season at various points. You kind of need 2-3 of those guys to be relatively reliable, Nick, to kind of get you in a spot where you have a chance to make up the delta of what people didn't think was possible, which is what this Reds team is trying to do. Let's be very clear. They were picked to finish with 77 wins. If I had to guess, it's going to require 84, 85 wins to probably win this division and or make the postseason, somewhere in there. So they're going to have to make the delta up of 7 or 8, call it games. And ultimately, Singer's probably going to have to be a pretty big part of that if they want to do it. All right, jumping down here, we have Marte on the rundown. I clearly was working the Prasco Park Joe Nuxall Classic when they decided to call him up, and I don't know what to make of any of this. I got to be honest, Nick. I'll kind of let you be the lead on all of it. I don't know. I'm assuming that this is about whether or not he should at least just play somewhere. If he's not going to play here, then he needs to go play back at Louisville.
Yeah, I think that's certainly. There's been a lot of people very upset about Noelvi Marte getting called up and not playing. I've already said it, so again, I apologize to the people that have listened to me all week, but as long as Noelvi Marte is sent back down for Andrew Abbott tomorrow, which is certainly what I assume is the move, I have no problem with them calling him up and letting him sit. I think he missed out on a whole 3 games because Louisville had a game rained out. So it's not, 3 games, I think he'll be okay. If that really messes up Noelvi Marte, he's not good enough. I don't know how to say it. If 3 games is going to mess a kid up, he's not good enough. I just think it was a situation where he was on the 40-man roster. The Reds had Matt McLain go down. They had Jake Fraley go down. Now, Jake Fro's a whole other thing. I think we would all love him to get sent down to AAA, but they're not doing that. So let's move past that. They had to make a decision on what they're doing. And they were in San Francisco. It's kind of a long flight across the country. So I think they just had to get guys who are on the 40-man roster out to San Francisco. They're going to send him back down tomorrow. If he's still on the roster tomorrow, I'm with you. Pitchforks out. Let's go. There's no excuse for not playing him. But if it was just because he was a dude on the 40-man roster that could play multiple positions, especially the infield, it made sense. And I didn't think it was fair to call Tyler Callahan up for his big league debut in that kind of spot. Look, Noelvi Marte screwed this team last year. He can take a flight across the country. He can pinch run for 1 game, and he can go back to Louisville and hopefully keep raking on Saturday. He's going to be okay. And if he's not good enough.
Yeah, it's at some point you stop treating these guys like they're absolute, babies. Like they're grown men. They should be able to find a way to be able to for the most part, produce at some point if they're good enough baseball players. I've said that time and time again. I've even said the fact that, as you know, Jake Fraley, if he gets sent down, if he's a good enough baseball player, he's going to showcase that. Unfortunately, here's the thing that I just can't get past. There's a mental component to this game that you just can't figure out with certain guys. When the lights come on, there are some guys that perform better than they do when the lights aren't on, which is kind of maybe a weird thing. There's not many of them out there like that, but some do, right? Some do. Some perform the same no matter what condition they're in. And some, obviously, as soon as they get to the bright lights, something changes. Now, maybe you call me crazy, and some would say that I am that. Will Benson can't hit this well at AAA. Now, I get it. It was 1 game. And then come up to the big leagues and struggle this bad. It is purely a mental hurdle that kid has to get over. How long you want to try to let him get over that mental hurdle, I don't know. But I'll say, I'd rather take someone with a high ceiling, Nick, that has a chance to play well above average, well above league average in the outfield, than to continue to run out somebody that's just going to be average. I'd rather take a chance on having a guy be below average when I know that there's an opportunity for them to be above average. Because at the end of the day, winning 77, 75, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83 games to me means nothing. To me personally, I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. I don't care if we don't make the playoffs by 2 games or 6 games. Who cares? So you might say, what are you trying to get at? What I'm getting at is we need to give guys opportunities that we think have a chance possibly to make up the delta of 6, 7, 8, 9 games. Now, you can ask yourself right now, you can start looking down the list of our lineups from time to time, and you ask yourself, do you think some of these guys that we're putting out there on a daily basis are going to be the difference in those 6, 7, 8 games we're going to have to make up probably somewhere from an analytical perspective to win this division? Are we? I don't know. And I get it. He struck out 4 times, 0 for 4. But now it's like, the thing that sucks is it's like he flies all the way across the country. He plays in San Francisco for 1 game, and now all of a sudden everyone's going to say that he has 0 chance of being helpful at all, no matter what. I just would say, I get it. Will Benson might be terrible. He might be Aquino 2.0. He might be. I don't know. But, like, can we also agree and remember back in 2023 when everybody was super excited and we had a chance to make the postseason? Do yourself a favor and go back and look at what Will Benson did during the Reds' run in which they had a chance to make the postseason. The only time that we've had a chance to make the postseason in a considerable amount of time, especially if you wipe out the COVID season. So, miss me with like all of the negative hate over 1 game when we're willing to trot out, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but we're willing to trot out Jacob Hurtubise. We're willing to trot out Jake Fraley. I like Blake Dunn, so I'm not putting him in that group. But my point in all of this is to say, before we just crush somebody and act like he's the only reason as to why he's getting opportunities is because, he killed it in AAA. Not everyone kills it in AAA. They don't. Not everyone does that. So, I don't know. It's a long-winded way of me saying, be careful what you wish for out in right field, because, it might be a little bit better than what you get out of Will Benson, but it's never going to be actually good enough to get you to the postseason. Anyway.
Noelvin Marte, if he goes back down to AAA, they have a doubleheader, so he has 18 innings tomorrow to catch up for his missed time this week.
There you go. Well, it's just like, I'll also say Marte, if the season's in a spot where we're not all that productive in certain areas at some point, and Marte's doing really, really well in AAA, I'd like to figure out what we have in him too at some point, personally. But I digress. Reds MILB.
Reds MILB, but a short one tonight. I know people will just be devastated to hear that. You'll have to listen to the podcast to get a little more cleaned up. Here's what we got going on right now. We did have a couple finals. Indianapolis beat our Louisville Bats 6-3. Carson Spires got his first start since getting demoted. Yep, a lot of hits. Six innings, 7 hits, 5 earned runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, gave up a couple homers. Austin Hayes made his first rehab assignment, 0 for 2, did have an RBI sac fly. Also had a ball that was hit in the infield, looked pretty good running down the line. So that was good to see. Overall, looked pretty healthy. Tyler Callahan, 1 for 4 with a triple. Also final, Dayton lost 5-1 to Fort Wayne. The story of this, of course, Chase Burns, another solid start from him. He struggled with his command at times also. I mean, they were in Dayton, so kind of dealing with the same elements that everyone in Cincinnati was. But 3 2/3, 2 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. 7 strikeouts in 3 2/3 innings. Just continues to, I don't know. He's just dominating these hitters. I don't know how long he'll be there. Ricardo Cabrera, 1 for 4. Yerlin Confidant, 1 for 3. A couple games in action right now. They're going to the 11th out in Chattanooga. They are tied with Birmingham 1-1. Sal Stewart, tough day, 0 for 5, 3 strikeouts for our guy Stewart. Dominic Patelli has tripled in this one. Jose Acuna, he's an interesting pitcher to keep your eye on. Pitched pretty well, some command issues, 5 innings, just 1 hit, no earned runs, but did walk 4, struck out 6. And last but not least, a wild one. It is going to the bottom of the 9th. Daytona is leading Clearwater 15-10. Some wild stuff going on there. Sammy Stafford did not start in this one. He came in late. He's 0 for 1. Alfredo Duno did not play either. So really all the guys that were tracking did not play. But Ty Floyd made his second start, and he was really good. 3 innings, 1 hit, 1 run, no walks, 6 strikeouts. So good to see Ty Floyd. Floyd was the Reds' competitive balance pick in 2023 out of LSU. Pick number 38 overall in that draft, but has been injured. So good to see him having some success early. And as mentioned, we'll have some more on the podcast with some more details about all that happened on your Reds minor leagues.
Ty Floyd, 1-2 punch with Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens, terrible interview. Terrible interview. Horrible. Sean Krucka, $2 says, finally some candy without any razor blades in it. Yeah, you know, I will say, listen, he gave us some production night. He won a baseball game. Help the Reds win a baseball game. Without candy, do the Reds win? We'll never know. Also, do we still do the whole song and dance during Halloween of checking your candy, making sure there's nothing crazy in it? Is that still a thing? I remember that being a thing when I was a kid, man. My parents would scare me.
We don't do it in the Kirby household, if anyone cared.
All right. DK Donkey Kong says, Nick, he's talking to you. Do you think Benson is in that, quote, figure it out in AAA, quote, category? Worked in 2023, but would it work now? I don't think it does. DK, I'll let you answer that.
I think he should have been on the opening day roster. I mean, I'd rather have a guy that has the upside and figure out for sure that he can or can't do this. I don't think there's enough. He had one really good season. He had one below average season. I think you need to find out what he has. There's not enough. He doesn't have enough big league run to really find out what he is. So I don't think there's really a whole lot more he can gain out of AAA. I mean, you may have to send him down there at points of the season for necessity. He has options. He can go up and down as many times as you need. But right now, with the roster on April 11th, I think he's your best option, or at least gives you a chance of being the best option. So I don't know. I don't think AAA is really going to do much for him other than maybe get his confidence back up. But at some point, he's just got to be able to play through the confidence issues.
He's played well in AAA this year, so it's not like there's something to figure out. I mean, he's done figured it out at AAA level this year. I mean, can't possibly play much better than what he did. So I don't know. Tough to. Will Benson's a tricky situation because I don't think anybody's going to be putting a ton of money on the fact that he's 100% a big league player. But I would also venture to say that if he's one of those guys that got let go or traded to somebody else, and the next thing you know, a year and 2 years from now, he so happens to be an above average outfielder in the big leagues, and he looks like a pretty serviceable player, you can't say you didn't have a semblance of an opportunity of seeing it. We literally seen it with our own eyes. All right, Jay Twa says, nice win. I pay for FanDuel streaming and had to go without seeing it. Apple TV blackouted me out. Jay Twa, come on. This is like Ron Burgundy here. I'm trying to clean this up on the fly. It's just not making sense. Apple TV blackouted me out. What you're trying to say, Jay Twa, is that Apple TV had a blackout that you were in. So instead, my stepmom got to enjoy my apples tonight. What?
We've had some wild super chats.
That's actually a funny one. Jay Twa, you got me to laugh, so that's good. That's a good super. I like that super. I didn't miss hearing Sadak, he says. I miss George Grant. So, hey. Everybody's got their announcers, man. Some people like certain announcers. First thing that my son today said when I was listening to the broadcast was, "Man, these guys are boring." I don't know. Teach their own, you know. Not too many broadcasters can win. Not too many of them are actually like well liked, you know. Remember when Joe Buck would get hell? I mean, honestly, Joe Buck was a terrible announcer. Remember that? Joe Buck could possibly be one of the best announcers of our lifetimes. Like, just saying.
I'm a Joe Buck stan. I miss Joe Buck. I think Joe Davis is a good announcer, but I wish Joe Buck was calling the World Series.
Joe Davis is nowhere near Joe Buck. I mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Joe Davis, but he's just not. So, and I don't know. Each their own. I don't want to sit here and go down a rant path of broadcasters. So we'll get ourselves in trouble.
If the Reds won a World Series, I would want Joe Buck to win the call. There's no question about it. Yeah. And Tommy Thrall, of course.
Right.
I want to be able to listen to both back to back, just kind of all night.
Yeah, there's nothing better than when your team does well, or they win something, or they win a championship, and you just get to like bask in all of the media coverage that is national television with your team. Maybe one day that'll happen.
The Reds, to be honest, not to go on a tangent, the Reds have really been spoiled in terms of guys that can call big moments. Like, I know there's people that don't like Tom, there's people that don't like Sadak, but there's no one that can argue that both of those guys, they meet the big moments. Yeah. And if you ask people across baseball, like they love their big calls. Like if you watch a lot of baseball highlights, you're not going to find two broadcasters that meet those moments better than those two did. So the Reds really are spoiled in that. I would personally rather have guys that are elite at calling the big moments, if maybe they're not as elite at everything else, because that's what matters at the end of the day. Like, if you're great all the time, but you butcher the big calls, like, I'm only going to remember the big calls 20 years from now. I'm not going to remember the rest of it.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, we have who, what, when, where, and why. We'll be back better than ever tomorrow. Reds, Pirates. Take it away, Nick.
All right, Reds, Pirates, 6:40 back on FanDuel Sports Network. Andrew Abbott will make his debut in 2 starts down at AAA, a 3.60 ERA for Abbott. Gave up 3 homers. That's probably the biggest concern. Also 5 walks in 10 innings. So we'll see what he's able to do. Pretty good career against the Pirates. 2 starts. He's got a 3.60 ERA against Pittsburgh. Good news, bad news. Bad news is the Reds will be going up against Andrew Heaney, who was off to a great start for the Pirates. Also bad news, he's a lefty. Had a great start his last time out against the Yankees. Career against the Reds, 2-0 with a 0.79 ERA, but he has not faced the Reds since 2022. And one guy that has never faced Andrew Heaney in a Reds uniform has had a lot of success against him. And you know who that is? Jeimer Candelario. He is 4 for 7 with 2 homers and 2 doubles, 4 extra base hits, and 7 at-bats against Andrew Heaney. So maybe, just maybe, Jeimer Candelario heating up at the right time?
We'll see. We will see. All right, we have a couple traditions to get out of the way, and then we will be back, as we just said, tomorrow. Take it away.
God, I hate this so much.
Well, it's just part
this
of
is Craig's fault. I think I would have been able to get out of it. Craig had to do it.
There you go. Bam. Bam. Remember that thing I said I was going to get set up? It still isn't set up. One day it will be, just not today. Might be done tomorrow. Probably not, because my son has baseball games. I'll be rushing back home. Won't be done tomorrow. Might be done Sunday. Probably not, because I'll be watching the Masters. Hopefully you do too. I was just thinking to myself, another random thought. Will Benson's like a golfer that misses like 75% of the cuts, but there's a chance that he goes out and he does win a major or two. Like his ceiling is pretty high, guys. His ceiling's pretty high. His floor's low too. There's a big elevator shaft there in the middle. We got to figure out where that elevator kind of typically sits, you know? We'll find that out. All right, it's time to find the outro. I found it. It's time to go find the basketball. It's been a minute. But as always, our numbers on this show are absolutely ridiculous. We love you all. We appreciate you. We'll see you back here tomorrow.